Chappelle was decapitated in front of us. Then when he made $500 million, they said even though his contract said he should get half of it, they said he made too much for the contract to be valid.
Did your wife and children know where you're going?
No.
No, nobody knew.
No. I bounced.
Now that sounds a little crazy.
It's not crazy because the situation kind of warranted it.
The worst thing to call somebody is crazy is dismissive. I don't understand this person, so they're crazy. That's bullshit. These people are not crazy. They're strong people. Maybe the environment is a little sick.
Y'all, most people still believe the simple version of the story. They think Dave Chappelle just panicked, that the pressure of fame crushed him, that he randomly walked away from a $50 million deal because he couldn't handle the spotlight. But what if that story was carefully planted? What if the real number was so massive, it had to be buried? Because according to Katt Williams, and according to documents that mysteriously resurfaced years later, the deal on the table wasn't $50 million at all. The real number being whispered behind closed doors was closer to $500 million. $500 million generated by one show, Chappelle's Show, a cultural bomb that turned Comedy Central into a powerhouse overnight. And here's where it gets disturbing. Dave's contract reportedly promised him a massive cut of that success, nearly half of everything the show made. But the moment he started asking questions about the money, the atmosphere around him shifted overnight. Suddenly, the narrative flipped. Suddenly, powerful voices on television were calling him paranoid. Suddenly, the network that made millions off his mind was offering him a fraction of what he was owed, like it was some generous favor. And when Dave refused to play along with the script they handed him, the situation didn't just get messy. It got dangerous.
Made $500 million and they offered him 50? Yes. And he said, what do you think my fans are gonna say when they find out you offered me 10% of what I made you? And they said, your fans will believe that you're a crazy crackhead by the time you get home.
Back in the early 2000s, television was going through a strange transition. The golden age of sitcoms was fading fast, and reality TV was flooding every network like a tidal wave. Executives were scrambling, desperately hunting for something bold, something unpredictable, something that could wake audiences up again. And then, almost out of nowhere, Dave Chappelle walked into the picture. What happened next didn't just create another comedy show, it shifted the entire atmosphere of television. The moment Chappelle's show hit the screen, you could feel the culture move. Every episode felt like a controlled explosion. Dave wasn't just telling jokes. He was slipping razor-sharp social commentary into sketches that looked harmless on the surface, but carried uncomfortable truths underneath. Week after week, he pushed boundaries most comedians were too afraid to even approach. Racism, politics, media manipulation, Hollywood hypocrisy, nothing was off limits. And somehow, he delivered those punches while making audiences laugh so hard they could barely breathe. Living rooms across America were filled with people wiping tears from their eyes, not just because it was funny, but because it was dangerously honest. But while the public saw comedy gold unfolding on screen, something very different was happening quietly behind the scenes. Because the bigger the show became, the more powerful people started realizing just how much control Dave actually had. And that's when things started to get complicated.
Excuse me, not sure we're in the right place. We're looking for Clayton Bigsby.
Well, look no further, fella, you found me.
Clayton Bigsby, the author?
What, you don't think I can write them books? Just 'cause I'm blind don't mean I'm dumb.
How could this have happened? A black white supremacist.
What about people who say you're only interested in the Middle East for oil?
What? Huh? Oil? Who said something about oil, bitch? You cooking? Oh. The only way I open the studio up now, y'all gotta walk uptown to the Bronx and get breast milk from a Cambodian immigrant. I only drink the finest breast.
Dave Chappelle never tried to play it safe. From the very beginning, he was willing to make everyone uncomfortable, including the same executives signing the checks that kept the show alive. But here's the twist that nobody expected. The more fearless Dave became, the more successful the show exploded. Chappelle's show wasn't just popular, it was a financial monster. DVD box sets were disappearing from store shelves, ratings were shattering records, and Comedy Central suddenly found itself sitting on a cultural goldmine. In fact, the network was making so much money from Dave's creativity that the entire brand of Comedy Central started orbiting around him. But behind the laughter and viral sketches, a very different reality was unfolding. While the show was quietly generating hundreds of millions of dollars, Dave himself was reportedly seeing only a tiny slice of that fortune. And that's the moment the story begins to take a darker turn. Because once the profits crossed a certain level, the rules of the game seemed to shift overnight. Dave's contract at the time allegedly restricted him from publicly discussing the financial details. But then comedian Katt Williams stepped forward and started pulling the curtain back. According to Katt, the true earnings from Chappelle's show weren't small at all, they were staggering. The show allegedly generated around $500 million for Comedy Central. And if Dave's agreement held true, he should have been entitled to half of that money, nearly $250 million. But when the moment came to settle the score, the explanation Dave received was shocking. According to the story that surfaced later, Comedy Central suddenly claimed the success had grown so large that the original contract no longer applied the way Dave believed it did. Imagine creating the biggest hit on the network, watching executives swim in profits built from your mind, only to be told the deal doesn't work anymore. And that's when the now infamous $50 million offer appeared. But according to people close to the situation, it wasn't some generous new contract. It looked more like a quiet settlement, a way to keep things under control. The message seemed simple. Take the money, keep producing the show, and stop asking questions, or walk away with nothing. But Dave Chappelle wasn't naive. He reportedly understood the deeper trap hiding inside that offer. Signing it could mean surrendering more than just business rights. It could mean handing over control of his image, his voice, and the very creativity that made him powerful in the first place. And when artists refuse to play along with powerful systems, history shows what often comes next. As Katt Williams famously said, they attack your reputation before they attack the contract itself. The public narrative can flip overnight. Suddenly, the person asking questions becomes the problem. People who remember that era know how quickly things spiraled. Right after the contract battle with Comedy Central erupted, Dave did something that shocked everyone around him. He quietly disappeared and flew to Africa, without even telling many people close to him where he was going. For a global superstar at the peak of his career, that kind of sudden escape raised serious questions. Because people don't vanish like that unless the pressure behind the scenes becomes overwhelming or dangerous. And when Dave eventually resurfaced and appeared on Oprah's show, he revealed something even more unsettling. According to him, the attacks weren't limited to rumors in the media. He said there were attempts to portray him as mentally unstable, and even pressure placed on him to take antipsychotic medication. Suddenly, the biggest comedian in America was no longer being treated like a genius. He was being treated like a problem that needed to be controlled.
So I got ahead of schedule, and I bounced. And I didn't tell anybody where I was going. The whole time, they're trying to convince me I'm insane. They were trying to get me to take psychotic medication. Yeah. Like I'm sitting around, I was stressed out, but the people that were telling me I was insane, I believed that they knew what was going on. So, this was troublesome.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not taking this medicine, man, because I know these people be trying to control you or maybe discredit you. I was afraid,
But you were stressed out. That's why.
There's no question. But it's very stressful for someone to constantly walk behind you and say, you're insane. Oh, hey, how about this? I showed up to work the first week, and where my office used to be, they built a wall there.
Why?
I didn't know why. But it came out later that they were like, well, they said you wanted it. I don't want to be walled up in the office.
And almost instantly, the entire atmosphere around Dave Chappelle flipped. One moment, he was being celebrated as the most fearless comedian in America. The next moment, the headlines painted a completely different picture. Suddenly, the same media that praised his genius was describing him as unstable, unpredictable, even dangerous to himself. Overnight, a new narrative seemed to appear everywhere. The headlines all sounded eerily similar. Dave Chappelle walks away from $50 million. Dave Chappelle runs off to Africa. Dave Chappelle suffers a breakdown. The same phrases echoed across television, newspapers, and talk shows like everyone had received the exact same script. To some observers, it didn't look like random gossip spreading through Hollywood. It looked far more organized, almost like a coordinated effort to reshape how the public saw him. A quiet form of reputation warfare. Because once the world starts believing you're unstable, everything else you say suddenly becomes easy to dismiss. Dave later hinted at this shift himself. According to him, the energy around the show started changing the moment he began asking uncomfortable questions behind the scenes. When he pushed back against certain sketches, when he questioned the direction of the show, when he refused to perform material he felt crossed a line, people who once supported him suddenly began acting very different. And during that now famous conversation on Oprah's show, Dave explained how quickly the narrative flipped once he refused to compromise. The moment he stopped cooperating, the spotlight moved off the system and straight onto him. Instead of addressing his concerns, the story being pushed to the public was much simpler. Dave Chappelle wasn't standing up for himself. According to the narrative spreading through the media, Dave Chappelle had become the problem.
Why'd you walk away from $50 million?
Well, I wasn't walking away from the money.
Yeah.
I was walking away from the circumstances
Uh-huh.
that were coming with the newfound plateau.
Yeah.
It takes a while when you punch through to adjust to the atmosphere. It was completely outside of my frame of reference. I've been in show business since I was 14, and I've heard the stories of what happens, and I've seen these kinds of things play out in front of me.
Okay.
When
you say you heard the stories, what do you mean? What stories?
I mean, you see before, look, Mariah Carey made a $100 million deal, and 3 months later, she's all of a sudden mysteriously crazy. Or Martin Lawrence punches through, and he's waving a gun on the street screaming, "They're trying to kill me."
Yeah. Yeah, we hear those stories.
And it always happens around the time in their career where it seems as though they're crossing over the next plateau.
Yeah. Would you say you lost your mind, sort of?
No.
No.
Not exactly.
Okay.
I wasn't crazy, but it's incredibly stressful.
And once that label of crazy attaches itself to your name, that's usually the end of the story. From that point forward, the headlines start doing all the heavy lifting. Every interview, every rumor, every public appearance suddenly gets filtered through that same narrative. The world stops seeing you as a voice worth listening to and starts seeing you as someone who's simply lost it. We've seen this pattern play out again and again. Different names, different scandals, but the same chilling storyline. Katt Williams, Britney Spears, Kanye West, each one at some point pushed back against the powerful systems surrounding them. And almost immediately, the same label began circulating: unstable, erratic, difficult. Once that reputation spreads, the public slowly starts distancing themselves, and the industry quietly begins closing doors. It's a strategy that's disturbingly effective. First, question the system. Then watch the system question your sanity. And if that smear campaign actually works, your career fades away without much resistance. But strangely, that might be the best possible outcome in situations like this. Because if the character attacks fail, if the audience refuses to believe the narrative, if the celebrity remains too loved or too powerful to fully cancel, then the situation can take an even darker turn. Because Hollywood has another reputation people rarely talk about openly. A reputation for making certain problems disappear entirely.
You're out in Hollywood, a lot of people come up missing. Feels like it might be a lot of that. In order to control, traumatize, they want to monetize and traumatize.
And when things reach that point, the pattern tends to look eerily familiar. It often begins with some tragic, unexpected headline. A mysterious plane incident. An unexplained overdose. A so-called accident that raises more questions than answers. A celebrity found in a bathtub, a hotel room, or somewhere no one expected them to be. And by the time the news spreads across television and social media, the story is already packaged in a way that feels final. Because once the public has been convinced that someone is unstable, very few people stop to question the details. The narrative has already been planted. The doubts have already been seeded. So when something terrible happens, it's easy for the world to accept the explanation and move on. And we've seen moments like that unfold again and again across entertainment history. Stars who begin asking uncomfortable questions about contracts, about money, about who truly controls the industry behind the curtain. People who start talking openly about exploitation or manipulation. Somehow, their stories often end the same way, abruptly, suddenly, wrapped inside a tragic headline that closes the conversation almost as quickly as it begins. The public mourns. The news cycle moves on. And the deeper questions quietly fade away into the background.
My publishing, a lot of my royalties, my mechanicals, they have all pretty much been stolen.
So when you really step back and look at everything that happened, the picture becomes impossible to ignore. Dave Chappelle didn't just turn down money. He walked away from what could have been one of the biggest paydays in entertainment history. A man at the very peak of his career suddenly vanished, left a $50 million deal sitting on the table, and flew halfway across the world while the media called him crazy. that alone should make anyone pause. Because people don't abandon fame, fortune, and power overnight unless something behind the scenes feels seriously wrong. The rumors, the headlines, the pressure to stay quiet, the sudden narrative that he had lost his mind, it all followed a pattern that many other celebrities have described before. But here's the part that still shocks people today. Dave didn't fold. He didn't sign the contract. He didn't play along. And he didn't allow the system to control his voice. Instead, he stepped away from the machine entirely, disappeared when the pressure peaked, and years later returned on his own terms. Richer, stronger, still standing. And that almost never happens. Because in most cases, when someone challenges the system at that level, their story doesn't end with a comeback. It ends with silence. Which raises a chilling question that fans are still debating to this day. Did Dave Chappelle escape something bigger than we were ever told? Or did he simply see the game before it was too late? Either way, one thing is certain. The story behind Chappelle's disappearance is far stranger than the version the media gave us. And if even half of these claims are true, then the real question isn't why Dave walked away. The real question is, what exactly was he walking away from? Let me know what you think in the comments. Because the deeper you look into this story, the more unsettling it becomes. And trust me, this rabbit hole goes much deeper than most people realize.
Not saying that to say that trans women aren't women. I am just saying that those...
But maybe that's part of surviving. Maybe the system doesn't just try to ruin you financially. It tries to soften you to make sure that when you come back, you don't burn the house down. Dave managed to bounce back, but at what cost? His principles kept him alive, but his comedy, that fearless, unfiltered voice that shook America during the Chappelle Show era, it's just not there anymore. So yeah, Dave's back. The empire is still his, and he's rich. But the Chappelle who walked away from $500 million, that version of him, the one who challenged the system without mercy, might never fully come back. Well, now I want to hear from you. Do you think Dave Chappelle's life was really in danger back then? And is that why he escaped to Africa? And what about today? Is the Dave we see on stage now the same Dave from the Chappelle Show days? Or did surviving the system change him and his comedy? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't miss out on this next story.